People said Madam Lizzy was not normal. She was too rich, too quiet, and too different. She had no husband, she had no child, but she had cars, houses, fine clothes, and plenty of money. Every day, children on the street would stop and point at her, whispering things they heard their parents say. Some said she was a witch who ate her own babies. Others said she used juju to get her money. Nobody knew where her wealth came from, and that made them afraid of her. But Madam Lizzy didn't talk much. She would smile, wave, and enter her big black jeep. She always looked peaceful, like someone who had no worries. But behind that calm face, her heart was full of pain. She had cried many nights, asking God why she didn't have a child of her own. But the pain grew worse when people turned her pain into gossip. She was called names she didn't deserve, but still, she showed love and kindness to those around her. Madam Lizzy lived in a big house in Lekki. Her compound was quiet. No sound of children running, no laughter, just silence. People said it was too quiet for a woman who was supposed to have a family. Some even said she built the house with blood money. Nobody ever came to visit her except her house help and driver. The mansion looked beautiful outside but sad inside. Every night, Madam Lizzy would walk to the window and look at the stars. She would remember the many times she and her ex-husband tried to have a child. She remembered the doctor's words. Her womb was too weak. Her husband left her after that. She was left with tears and a broken heart, but she never let anyone see her cry. She smiled in the day and cried at night. Her mansion was full of everything except joy. The people in her neighborhood in Lagos didn't stop talking. Look at her again. A woman told her daughter one day, she wears lace and gold, yet no child. Be careful around her. Some boys said Madam Lizzy was part of a secret cult. They said she wore perfumes made from baby blood. It was all lies, but nobody cared about the truth. They believed what they wanted. Even some pastors preached about women like her. A woman without a child is like a tree without fruit. One pastor said one Sunday, Madam Lizzy was there, sitting at the back. Her heart broke into pieces. She left church before the sermon ended. Nobody saw the tears running down her face that day. But when she got home, she wiped her tears and gave her cook money to buy food for an orphanage nearby. Despite all the rumors, Madam Lizzy helped many people. She paid rent for struggling mothers. She gave school uniforms to children with torn clothes. Sometimes, she went to the hospital to clear bills for strangers. One day, she saw a woman crying outside a pharmacy because she had no money to buy drugs for her baby. Madam Lizzy paid for everything and even gave the woman extra money. But instead of thanks, people said she was using kindness to cover her evil. She's only helping people so they won't suspect her, one man said at a bar. It hurt, but Madam Lizzy kept giving. Her heart was full of love. She didn't know why God didn't give her a child, but she knew she could still show love to other people's children. One Saturday morning, a new family moved into the house beside Madam Lizzy. They had one little girl called Boma. She was just 6, full of smiles and very playful. Madam Lizzy loved watching her from her window. She would wave, and Boma would wave back. Slowly, Boma started coming to Madam Lizzy's gate, asking for sweets. Madam Lizzy would laugh and give her biscuits, balloons, and toys. But Boma's mother didn't like it. "Don't go near that woman again," she shouted one day. "She's not normal. Haven't you heard stories about her?" Boma cried, and Madam Lizzy watched from her balcony. Her heart sank. All she ever wanted was to be around children. Now, even a small child was being dragged away from her. One evening, a loud noise broke out in the area. People were shouting, "Boma is missing! Boma is missing!" Her mother was crying and running up and down the street. Neighbors joined her. They searched everywhere, under cars, in compounds, in shops. But Boma was nowhere to be found. The sun went down and fear filled the air. Then someone said something that changed everything. What if Madam Lizzy took her? That woman has always been too close to the child. Soon a crowd gathered at her gate. They began shouting her name, calling her a witch. Madam Lizzy was inside, shaking in fear. Her gate was locked, but people were trying to break it. "Come out, witch!" someone screamed. Stones started flying over the gate. Madam Lizzy held her chest and cried, "God, what did I do?" She wanted to burn her house. Just as they were about to break down the gate, a boy ran from the corner and shouted, "I found her! I found Boma!" The crowd turned. Boma came out from behind a bush, dirty and crying. She had followed a puppy and lost her way. Everyone went silent. Eyes turned from Madam Lizzy to Boma. Madam Lizzy sat on the floor and cried in relief. Boma's mother hugged her and cried. Then someone asked, "Where did you go?" Boma wiped her tears and said, "I followed the puppy. Then I got lost. I cried and cried until Auntie Lizzy found me." Everyone turned again. "What?" they asked. "She found you?" "Yes," Boma nodded. "She gave me water and carried me home." Madam Lizzy came out slowly, her hands shaking. "I only wanted to help," she said softly. That moment, the crowd went quiet. For the first time, people looked at her not with fear but with shame. Everything stays simple, emotional, and easy to follow. Nobody could look Madam Lizzy in the eye. People started walking away quietly. Even the woman who had once shouted witch was now looking at the ground. Some mumbled sorry, some just ran back to their houses. But the damage had already been done. Madam Lizzy stood there, tears on her face, her fine wrapper dirty, her hands still shaking. Boma ran to her and hugged her tightly. "I'm sorry, Auntie Lizzy," she said. That small hug meant more than all the sorry in the world. Madam Lizzy picked her up gently and said, "You're safe now, my baby." Boma smiled, but her mother stood there frozen, not knowing what to say or do. The next day, Madam Lizzy had a knock. She opened the gate and saw Boma's mother standing there holding a bowl of rice and stew. "I came to say I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I judged you wrongly. I allowed fear to speak instead of the truth." Madam Lizzy smiled softly. She collected the food and told her, "Thank you. I forgive you." From that day, the woman began to respect her. She even told other neighbors what really happened. One by one, people who once called her a witch started coming to her gate to say sorry. Some brought gifts. Some brought their children to say thank you. Madam Lizzy accepted them all with a peaceful heart. One Sunday, Madam Lizzy sat with Boma's mother and told her story. How she once had a loving husband. How they tried for 10 years to have a child. How doctors told her it would never happen. How her husband left her and married another woman. "I didn't choose this life," Madam Lizzy said, "but I chose not to become bitter." She told her how people called her names, how pastors preached against her, how children feared her. Boma's mother cried. "I judged you without knowing what you've been through," she said. "You are stronger than most people I know." Madam Lizzy nodded, her eyes full of quiet pain and quiet strength. Weeks passed, and Madam Lizzy visited the orphanage she always supported. This time, she brought food, clothes, toys, and even a small birthday cake for one of the children. As she was leaving, a small girl ran up to her. "Will you be my mommy?" the child asked, holding her hand tightly. Madam Lizzy knelt down, tears filling her eyes. "Would you like me to be your mommy?" she asked softly. The little girl nodded. The workers at the orphanage were surprised. They said the girl, Amaka, never spoke much to strangers. That day, something deep changed inside Madam Lizzy's heart. Madam Lizzy started visiting the orphanage more often, mostly because of Amaka. They would sing together, read books, and draw flowers. Amaka became her joy. One day, Madam Lizzy asked about adoption. The orphanage agreed. The process began. For the first time in years, Madam Lizzy had a reason to smile from her heart. When Amaka finally came to live with her, the mansion felt alive again. Laughter filled the rooms. Toys were everywhere. Amaka would run into her arms and say, "Good morning, mommy." and Madam Lizzy's heart would melt. The same house that once felt empty was now a home. News spread fast. People who once called her a witch now called her Mommy Amaka. Children from the street came to play in her compound. Parents who once feared her started asking for advice. She became a helper, a listener, and a voice of wisdom. One woman said, "I used to be scared of you, but now I pray my child grows up to be like you." Madam Lizzy only smiled. She didn't say much, but her heart was full, not with pride, but with peace. She had passed through fire, but now she was shining like gold. A women's group invited her to speak. At first, Madam Lizzy said no, but they begged her, saying, "Your story can heal many hearts." She stood on the stage, wearing a simple gown. She told them everything: her pain, the names people called her, the day she was nearly beaten, and the day she found Amaka. Many women in the crowd cried. Some came forward and hugged her. One woman said, "I also have no child, but today you gave me hope." Madam Lizzy smiled and said, "You may not have a child yet, but your womb is not empty. You still carry love." One morning, someone came to her gate. It was her ex-husband. He looked older and tired. "I heard what happened," he said. "You are not the same woman I left. You have become a light." He asked if she could forgive him. Madam Lizzy said, "I forgave you long ago, but I've moved on." He saw Amaka running and laughing. He paused and said, "She looks just like you." Madam Lizzy replied, "She is mine and I am hers. That's all that matters." Her ex-husband left, speechless. He had come hoping to start again, but he realized he was too late. Madam Lizzy and Amaka grew very close. They cooked together, danced, and even prayed together. Amaka started calling her my angel mommy. The bond they shared was not by blood, but it was stronger than many. One day, Amaka got sick. Madam Lizzy stayed by her bed all night, crying and praying. When Amaka opened her eyes the next morning and said, "Mommy, I'm okay now," Madam Lizzy cried for joy. That moment, she knew what it truly meant to be a mother, not just giving birth, but giving love, care, and protection, no matter what. Years passed. Madam Lizzy became known in Lagos, not just as a rich woman, but as a woman of love. Children loved her. Mothers respected her. She adopted 2 more children. Her home was now full of laughter. People forgot she was once called a witch. They now called her Mama of Many. Her story teaches us one thing: never judge a woman by her womb. A childless woman is not useless. A quiet woman is not a witch. Some people carry silent pain and still choose to love. And that kind of love is the strongest of all.